It's our pleasure, my co-chair, Katarzyna, and myself, my name is Jan-Willem Gorter, will now introduce our next speaker. And it's truly an honor to welcome Ruslan Vasyutin. As you know, not far from here, a war is happening on European ground. And its impact is not only on the Ukraine and the Ukrainian people, it affects all of us. In particular, children with special healthcare needs and rehabilitation needs and their families. So our guest of honor is Ruslan Vasyutin, a native Ukrainian businessman who has a daughter called Alice with cerebral palsy. And it is his mission to provide support, and Ruslan formed an organization, DCP Help, I'm sure he will talk about it, a countrywide NGO to aid parents and kids with special needs. Katrina, you?
Yes, I'm really honored to co-chair these sessions as I met Ruslan in the beginning of the previous year. And I remember Ruslan who had to protect his own family against the war, but at the same time, from the very beginning, from the first days of the war, he was extremely active to support other families and other children that had to flee Ukraine and had to move to other countries. How difficult it is, we could have heard in our previous presentation. So I'm really honored to co-chair the session and introduce Ruslan and his presentation, Challenges of Comprehensive Rehabilitation for Children and Families in Time of War Conflict.
Please join us in welcoming Ruslan. Thank you.
Well, good morning, dear friends. And first of all, it's of course a challenge to be good after an excellent presentation, but I will try. And first of all, thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, the Academy members. Thank you for inviting me to this conference, and thank you for letting me and us to share our experience and to learn together with you. And special thanks, as far as I am representing the group of parents of children with special needs. So it's very important to my mind to let us be heard, and thank you for recognition of our role. So the art presentation at the very beginning, the performance, and the previous presentation and speech were so powerful and really touching and penetrating, very emotional and corresponding very much with our life, with the destiny of millions of Ukrainians and our hope and our activity. And at the very beginning, I would like to emphasize that we do not consider ourselves victims. Talking about refugees and about refugees with special needs, I would rather use the term heroes. And my presentation is more about, not about problems, even taking into account the war, but it's rather about opportunities grown from challenges. And it's about a journey from one reality to another reality, a journey from one mindset to another mindset, and a journey from one level to another level. So in my activity, I try to approach all challenges as an opportunity. The formula is very simple, but at the same time very hard, because you are focused on challenges related to your children, and it's very difficult, really difficult, to generalize, to perform activities going beyond your family and beyond your personal challenges. First of all, I would like to say that my daughter, Alisa, is my muse, is my princess, and with all I achieved during last decade, I owe to her, and she inspires me and helps not only me, but others who we support in our activities. Just a few words about myself. I'm a PhD in psychology, and psychology helps me very much, not only to survive, but to act professionally and to share the results of this activity with others. And first of all, I'm father of lovely Alisa, and this role I enjoy it. I'm happy to be her father. At the same time, by the way, I'm a founder of DCP Help. I found this NGO 10 years ago when my daughter was born, and immediately decided to unite parents of children with cerebral palsy and later with neuro diseases, neuro disorders, and later children with disabilities. So our organization tries to support families with such children, and it started as a national Ukrainian organization, but immediately after the war started in Ukraine, we became international. And after leaving Ukraine, we continued to support families in Slovakia, where we went at the beginning of war, and then later in the United Kingdom. At the same time, I try to develop my consulting business in the company Master Goal, but we are very much involved in charity activities and in integration consulting. We help other refugees, not only Ukrainians, but other nationalities, to integrate to a new environment. And I'm a Rotary UK member. I'm proud of it because during these days we actively support Ukraine in terms of supporting rehabilitation centers in Ukraine, providing equipment, rehabilitation equipment, ergotherapy equipment, and other type of equipment to support rehabilitation process and activities in Ukraine. So to start this journey, it's necessary to understand, to realize that nobody expected such huge changes in Ukraine. Yes, we had conflicts, we had contradictions with Russia for years, but most of our population did not expect the war to start. And I was among those who didn't believe that war can start with missiles, with bombing. So the lie was balanced, clearly formulated and double-checked diagnosis, very simple to understand and very relatively simple to follow and to treat. Settled system of medical care, rehabilitation and social care. Yes, we are not the richest country in the world. However, the government takes care of families with disabilities and trying to support with, financially, and of course, providing professional care, medical care and social care. And it's an open secret. All families in Ukraine with the children with disability, they provided with this special support. Efficient networking. Ukrainians in general are very active in communication and interaction. So in Ukraine, I've created a group of my followers, like-minded followers, and it's around 1,200 people on Facebook. But at the same time, we have another group with 8,000 parents of children with disabilities actively interacting, communicating, sharing, and supporting each other. So we are really communication-oriented people. Having a stable physical and mental condition. Of course, it was very important after this trauma of the child with disability born. We somehow restored our mental health and tried to be productive and to enjoy life. Realistic expectations. Yes, living in the country for years, being an experienced citizen, you probably know and you can expect, you know what to expect from future. And you are able to foresee the risks. Of course, we have risks and it's normal, but in Ukraine before the war, we were able to foresee, to predict them and to balance them, to manage all the risks. And then suddenly change happened, the emergency change. So the first reaction, even being a resourceful parents of a child with disability, the first reaction is shock, stress, and frustration. No clarity, no information, nothing. For many days after the first missiles attack, we didn't believe. It's a very interesting phenomenon. We saw the evidence. We knew the facts, still didn't believe that it's happening. And it's very typical so for people and for humans. And it was very necessary to understand, to realize, and to be able to take decision as soon as possible, being in the center of the war conflict. We lived close to Kiev and our village. A military Air Force base was located quite close to our village, so it was attacked first, in the first minutes of the war. So the decision process was quite intensive, and the first and the most important criterion for us was, of course, the safety of our daughter. Our daughter has a severe disability, so severe cerebral palsy. She can't walk, she can't talk, and she needs 24 hours support. Of course, to provide it even in peaceful times, it's not an easy task. But to do this in the war, it's almost impossible to imagine. So, by the way, I am representing now not only the experience of our family. I tried to combine the experience of other families. And as you probably know, more than 5.5 million Ukrainians left Ukraine. And unfortunately, I don't have statistics, nobody does, how many families with children with disability left Ukraine. But still, there is a lot of us, and we try to be united abroad. So the decision was taken in a few days, and we were among the first people who decided to leave their homes and went to go abroad. I will not show you the pictures and describe all this disaster of going through Ukraine in the nights without any signs, without real physical possibility to be oriented, and with a lot of cars standing there along the roads without fuel, and it was cold, it was winter, but finally we reached the safe place. We went to Slovakia, and yes, immediately in a few days started to meet other families with children with disabilities, trying to help them with accommodation and with emergency support. But in general, it was a huge change of life regime. It was a huge change of habits. It was a change of climate. It was a change of social environment. A lot of changes, stressful changes. And of course, wrong expectations. I have to recognize that being a resourceful and determined parent, we try to plan everything. And we were planning even this emergency escape. As a psychologist, I need to recognize that expectations, and especially high expectations, is a source of trouble. And it happened to us and to many families. We had certain expectations and focused on the care of our children. And until we realized the reality, until we agreed inside of us to be cooperative and to integrate, we were suffering from stress and from internal conflict. So we passed all the stages, traditional stages of accepting. It's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And finally, we realized that the main thing we achieved is safety. It was our main goal for this day. It was the most important thing. So that was the start of big change, of huge change. And we've met new environment challenges. Despite new cultural patterns and attitudes, we tried to build the traditional, in our understanding, atmosphere and environment supporting our child. And again, it was maybe too aggressive, and it was typical for such families. We immediately recognized the lack of medical support, the absence of equipment, not enough social care, no professional inclusion and education, and so on and so forth. And we were really demanding. Very often our families were in conflict with local system of social care and medical support. Again, it was a mistake, but it's understandable now, fortunately. But at the very beginning, we spent, and many families, unfortunately, even now spend a lot of energy trying to be conflicting with the reality. And one of the tasks of my organization now is to show the people another way, to be productive, to be constructive, not conflicting with environment, but collaborating with it. But at this time, we were quite far from this collaboration regime. So the eternal misunderstanding in our minds of parents, rehabilitation, habilitation, we faced it immediately when we arrived abroad and tried to figure out what's the difference again and again, and trying to compare the system, trying to be very attentive to local professionals, and they tried to explain to us, trying to show the present-day system of rehabilitation and habilitation. At the same time, most of families were suffering from the lack of housing, finances, transportation, but finally all these challenges brought us to a very important understanding that this is not about the wrong system. This is about the wrong entrance to the system. And we figured out a very important thing, and we started to study it. The time gap. This actually was the biggest problem. The time gap, the period from entering other country till becoming a really active and recognized element of social system. So integration. For us, it became obvious suddenly. So the biggest problem and the biggest challenge for families with children with disabilities, Ukrainian families, in the status of refugee, is to survive this gap between coming and fully understanding the reality and being integrated into this reality. So it's about upgrading not only the activities, the behavior, but upgrading the goal. So finally, we were lucky to understand that our biggest achievement of coming to another country in such conditions and circumstances is safety. So we are already happy and we are already lucky that we are alive. That was the first understanding of changing reality. So we now, after understanding this, we tried to approach professionally the transformation from survival to integration, from being victim to being an intensive hard worker, from conflict to collaboration. And step by step, week by week, we tried to provide work-life balance. Very unusual thing for Ukrainians. In Ukraine, we have a proverb, you don't work, you don't eat. It's very typical and explaining our attitude to reality. So most of Ukrainian refugees with children with disabilities are women. And despite the fact that ladies are ladies and we treat them in a special way, Ukrainian mothers of children with disabilities are warriors. They are over-resourceful and very ready 24 hours to act, to struggle, to fight, and they have a lot of energy. And our task as an organization was and is to direct this energy in a peaceful way. So to understand, to try and enjoy work-life balance, even being a parent of a child with disability, it was a new experience. abroad. It was a new positive experience. And of course, mental health care. I can provide another presentation on this topic, but it appeared to be extremely, extremely important to take mental care of our compatriots abroad. The latest studies shows that 100% of Ukrainian refugees are suffering from mental disorders, unfortunately. So, as a part of rehabilitation and integration process, we use the mental care component to help, first of all, parents to stay resourceful, to survive, and to be objective and fair. So it's another very important task, and we approach the whole rehabilitation process focusing on the component of mental health care of the parents. From endless rehabilitation to expedient habilitation, this slogan sounds a bit aggressive, but yes, it's one of our new understanding points. Many parents of children with disability got used for endless process of supporting physical and mental condition of their children, even without real progress, waving, so getting better, then losing the affect, getting better, losing the affect. For the first time, we started to think about habilitation as the more important process and more important goal. So to let our children not only to survive physically and mentally, but to be engaged in society. So it's about inclusion, it's about the real equal opportunities. So from struggle to joy, and that became our slogan of last months, sharing this understanding, new understanding, sharing the new attitude to new reality. And of course, self-management. In Ukraine, in the United Kingdom, in Europe, it matters. I mean, first of all, we try to help parents to be resourceful, because they still are responsible, first of all, for their children. And fortunately, most of us are doing it responsibly and consciously. That's why we need this energy, we need this support to support our children. So self-management, self-care is becoming very important in terms of surviving this experience of war. Collaborating with new reality. So for us as parents, it was and it is very important to adapt to a new reality, not to struggle, not to fight with new reality, trying to protect our traditional vision, attitudes, and habits. To accept the reality, whatever it is, it's very important. Even for me, it wasn't very easy to do that. Because I created my reality at home in Ukraine. I created paradise for my daughter, and I was protecting this idea and my vision and my perception as paradise. But it was inevitable that we change our attitude, that we became more involved and engaged in new society. So, settlement of household problems. Yes, step by step, day by day, all these daily problems were solved with the support of local communities, with the support of other parents, with the support of government. So, less problems, more energy. Surviving the gap, as I've said, it was obvious that it's necessary just to get additional support during, say, half a year, maybe 8 months. And there things are changing and becoming better. And it's necessary to understand it from the very beginning, not wasting time, not wasting energy. Of course, mental health, crisis planning, we became able to plan our life again, to look for future and to have at least some clarity only in 5 or 6 months after we arrived. Probably this is the inevitable period of uncertainty. And again, it's necessary to understand it. We try to understand newly arriving families with children with disability that it is normal. Don't be panicked. We are here, we are around, and you are okay. Everything is okay. Just wait, just collaborate, just integrate. Crisis and emergency management. In this period, it is very important to build this system of crisis and emergency management. Unfortunately, talking to local councils, talking to national charities, I see that nobody expected such an intensive effect of war in Ukraine. So people open their hearts, people open their borders, people open their homes to Ukrainians, trying to be helpful, but at the same time, the system, the social system, the national social system of many countries was not able to digest this intensive need. So lately, we started to help, to support with our feedback, with our innovative vision, with our solutions to support the local system. So we started this collaboration. Mental health care, extremely important, and we now involve different professional organizations to support parents of children with disabilities in their mental health care. We provide different events, we provide different activities. We even decided to create a special series and special program of instructing people how to help themselves. So self-help, psychological self-help. Supporting others. This is an open secret that you feel better, you live better if you support others, even being in trouble, even suffering from something. So networking, interacting with social organizations, with charities, with other groups of parents, with other communities, we try to share this readiness and readiness to support others, not only Ukrainians. Winning solution in combination of, here is the essence of our discover. So what actually can be done not only to survive, but to live productively and to create innovation. So traditional elements, Ukrainians approach. Many families with children with disabilities during this war, they visited Ukraine, and especially rehabilitation centers in the western part of Ukraine, to follow the traditional habit of having rehabilitation. As you probably know, we have a kind of tradition or rule to have 2 rehabilitation courses during the year, 1 to 2 weeks intensive rehabilitation therapy and so on and so forth, twice a year. And it became a part of our life, part of our habit. Some of our parents visited European and Asian rehabilitation centers twice during this year, trying to keep going with this approach. At the same time, we are online with our doctors, with our neurologists, with our pediatricians, with our GPs from Ukraine, consulting, getting online support, trying to figure out something new, trying to get feedback, professional feedback with our people who we trust for years. Advanced self-care, this was something new. In the system where I am now, in the United Kingdom, it's very typical that a lot of professionals assess your child and then deliver reports with advice. So how to act independently. At the very beginning, it was quite unusual because we got used that people approach our daughter and they do practically something. We just participate, being present. Now we are more involved in activities of self-care, of doing this therapy ourselves. And it works. Anyway, I believe that our involvement, balanced involvement, is a key success factor. New opportunities, new mindset, new cohort of Ukrainian rehabilitologists. Yes, a huge group of people, professional medical doctors, left Ukraine, and they try to support each other, to support Ukrainian community abroad. So fortunately, we also were lucky to find speech therapists, massage therapists, and to include their support in our new system of rehabilitation. New community advantages, I mean alternative sources of support. For many times we had conflict, many families had conflict demanding support from the local authorities and local councils. At the same time, they were not against, they were just trying to explain that the time matters. Just wait, become a full-fledged element of a social system and get everything you need. But in the meantime, it was very obvious that we need and we can use the support of other organizations and sources. For example, local charities and national charities, NGOs, even church communities provide a lot of support, temporary support, but very necessary to wait until this full-fledged membership. And specialized school and educational health care plan. For us, it's a kind of the biggest achievement. Most of us should wait until getting the placement in a specialized school. But in this new reality, in this new system of rehabilitation, we and all of other people see it as the best achievement. So you should somehow to survive this time gap, and then when your child is placed to a specialized school, then you get the full professional support, including therapy. So for us, it became a very important goal, and in case of our family, we finally got a placement. We start attending the specialized school in September, and I believe that since that time, a new period in our life starts, and we'll get new experience and new support. Inside and outside the war, of course, it's very important to understand that many people, most of families with children with disabilities, they didn't leave Ukraine, they stayed there and they need intensive support. Some people migrated from the war, intensive war conflict areas to more safe areas, but they still need support. I'm sure and I know for sure that existing rehabilitation center and professionals in Ukraine do their best to continue to support such families. But at the same time, we try to combine the efforts of different international organizations to provide the additional support, like Rotary UK for the second year already provides additional equipment to rehabilitation centers in Ukraine and additional advice. So being inside the war, it's a bit different from being outside the war. Those people who stayed in Ukraine, their life is about emergency help, about survival, about evacuation, temporary settlement, partial restoration of habits with alternative resources, waiting and hoping. For those who left Ukraine, most of them are still waiting of coming back, but in the meantime, it's about accepting your reality, it's about upgrading the goal, transforming the attitude, and using the existing opportunity. In general, integrating and helping others to integrate. What is the next? I just mentioned described briefly our experience, the experience of typical Ukrainian family who left Ukraine, but the constructive approach matters. In our organization, DCP Help, we tried to think of how can we utilize this new experience? How can we use it to support others and to support the world? So, the first thing we try now use this experience to support others, sharing it, sharing positive experience, sharing positive practices, and working out the solutions. Creating successfully working models and sharing them with local organizations, with local professionals and government, influencing even the policy-making process. And of course, we created together a new field of research and professional practice, the field of integration of refugees and migrants with disabilities. And I'm really happy that we found like-minded people locally who are interested in developing this very important segment of social development. And of course, all this is about transforming the people's lives. Well, at the same time, I'm sure when nothing else matters, the smile of my daughter is the main criterion of my success and of well-being. I'm sure other parents agree with me, and if we see the smile of our children, we are sure that we are successful. And I would like to thank you all for letting us being able to enjoy the life, supporting us, gathering together, learning, exchanging, letting us to participate, and in general helping us to be able not only to enjoy life, but even to support others. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, we do not have time for comments and questions, but I'm sure there will be a chance to talk to Ruslan during the break. My only comment is how lucky we are that we have each other and are able to overcome all the differences and support each other even in such difficult and challenging situations. Thank you, Ruslan. Thank you so much.